So, are there any foods that actually can heal your teeth? And the answer to that lies in some studies that were done, some in Denmark and some in other parts of the country, of Europe and also in England, where they actually gave small pieces of cheese to children before they went to school each morning. After breakfast, they had this little piece of cheese. There was one with Edam, there was one with cheddar cheese. And in these studies, it showed that cheese can actually help children prevent cavities. There were less cavities in the children who had this little tiny piece of cheese on the way to school. Now, that's obviously not a complete story, and we have to go further than that if we're going to look at foods and decide which foods are good for our teeth. Really, I'm going to stop the conversation there, though, because what we should be doing is looking at our meal times, and almost every food that we consume is going to end up making our mouth acidic, and acidity weakens teeth. So the best solution to this is to make sure that you eat and drink and end every meal with what I call a tooth protective food. Now, this would be a food that doesn't cause acidity, it doesn't decay your teeth, it doesn't have sugars in it. So it could be something like cheese, which is very tooth protective. Say you're eating pizza and you're drinking a soda and you're having other foods alongside with it, vegetables and fruits. Eat, and you might want to end with a little bit of that pizza cheese. That would be one way of doing this, very simply ending the meal, as they do in parts of Europe, with a little piece of cheese or something else that is food protective. And I get asked, well, Ellie, what is food protective? Things that like avocado, celery, apples, in fact, are tooth protective. There's enough fiber in a fresh apple, not in apple juice, but in a fresh apple. So there are certain foods that you can end a meal with because they are fibrous, because they do not cause cavities. There are also foods like strawberries and raspberries that are delicious, and they contain a little bit of xylitol. And xylitol is this food that I love because it is so easy to protect your teeth with xylitol. It can be in the form of a fresh strawberry or a fresh raspberry at the end of a meal, or you could get some granular xylitol and actually dip that strawberry into it. The other thing would be to drink whole milk. If you are a milk drinker, whole milk is tooth protective as well. And of course, water can wash away the food particles and clean your mouth. So the sequencing is to eat and drink and then try to clean or wash your mouth and then end with a tooth protective food. And of course, xylitol is my favorite because it not only doesn't cause cavities and does protect your teeth and does feed the good bacteria in your mouth, but it also stimulates a flow of the liquid in your mouth, the saliva that cleans our teeth and heals our gums and teeth. And stimulated saliva is even more incredible than resting saliva, the saliva that just happens to be in your mouth. Every time you stimulate with xylitol a flow of the saliva to come into your mouth, it's going to be 2 units of pH higher. That means more alkaline, more healing than resting saliva. So what an incredible thing. You can take 1 gram, 2 mints, put it in your mouth and help to stimulate the saliva flow that will heal your teeth, reverse any demineralization that occurred during eating. And then if you don't eat or drink for an hour or 2 afterwards, you're going to actually feed the good bacteria in your mouth and develop healthy biofilm. So saliva is really the key to oral health. I want to be the marketing person for saliva because it is incredible to heal your gums and your teeth. The problem with us is we nibble, we snack, we sip. I was discussing this with somebody the other day and they said, what do you mean I'm going to actually sit there without sipping anything for an hour or more? This to some people seems incredible. But this is why we have tooth problems, why we have sensitivity, why teeth get soft and wear away. we have to give our tooth enamel time to directly interact with our saliva. So then we could flip here to a conversation about what kind of foods actually feed our saliva, what foods make our saliva more healing. And these are all the foods that are really good if you're into nitric oxide production. They're very much the same foods. Salad foods, lettuce, celery, beets, onions, mushrooms, garlic, all these good foods that not only help our digestive health, our immune system, but in that whole sequencing, our immune system influences our blood content of minerals, and these flow around our body, and our salivary glands are where there's an exchange between the blood in our body and our salivary ducts. In these salivary glands, there is this networking between capillaries, the small blood vessels, and the little ducts of our salivary glands. And this interaction is where the minerals from our blood go into these ducts, are then concentrated and pushed into our mouth as saliva. So what we eat, what's absorbed, which depends on our gut health, what's then circulated around our body, which depends on your exercise and movement, and then it ends up in our salivary glands and finally pumped into our mouth as healthy saliva to support not only our tooth health, our gum health, but the bacteria population in our mouth that protects us from all this damage and disease. So food is incredibly important in this cycle, but you have to understand it isn't a direct, not so much a direct influence as an influence through saliva. That is really the way to think about it, in my opinion. So before we start eating all these healthy foods that are going to help our salivary health, it's really important to understand that you have to have good digestive health in order to absorb from your gut the minerals and into your bloodstream, into your immune system, to help your immune system. And digestive health is different. Your digestive health, of course, the tube that starts in our mouth and our nose are the openings to this tube, goes through our body, and bad mouth health, of course, can influence digestive health. A lot of people with bad mouth health find they have poor digestive health, and vice versa. We don't actually know which happened first. I have a belief that if you have poor oral health as a child, or you have a lot of fillings and sealants as a child, it can affect your digestive health as an adult. So I have a lot of interest in helping children never have sealants, never have fillings for their digestive health in later life. But your digestive health depends on certain foundational bacteria. And these are the bacteria that we wipe out if we have antibiotic treatments. If we take a course of antibiotics, they can easily wipe out these very delicate and very foundational bacteria. One of the most important is called Akkermansia. And this particular strain of bacteria, you really cannot, as far as I read in the studies, take it as a probiotic. It's something that you have to nurture in your body. And this is why probiotics for digestive health, I think, are a big conversation. And I think there's been a lot of misunderstanding. And certainly probiotics in the mouth, I feel the same about. It's better to try to look after your mouth bacteria with the habits that you have and the way that I recommend than to simply try to take a probiotic and sort of think you're injecting good bacteria into your mouth, because it doesn't happen that way. We have to support the bacteria that we cultivate in our digestive tract. And for gut health, there are fermented foods that are really great that will help your digestive tract to become healthier, but you have to start really with these foundational Akkermansia and the short-chain fatty acid that's called butyrate. If you've never heard of butyrate, it's a good thing to start hearing about it, because it's the butyrate that actually creates a lining to your digestive tract that allows you to absorb better, to absorb more minerals into your blood, into your system, from the foods you eat. And today there is a food pairing science where we learn how we can pair certain foods together to get the maximum benefit from them. This is a big subject and we'll do another video on it, but just to tell you, for example, if you eat a banana with a dairy product like a yogurt, for example, or a custard, the fiber in the banana, the kind of bacteria that fiber feeds, will allow you to absorb more of the calcium from the dairy product that's being eaten with the banana. So it isn't just food now we have to look at, it's combinations of foods. And for acromantia, it appears one of the very best foods you can start to incorporate into your diet is pomegranate seeds, pomegranate fruit, pomegranate juice appears to work well. And then for butyrate, which is the other foundational product or the sort of mucus part, the lining of your gut, you want all the foods that have fiber, fruits, grains, whole grains, vegetables, lots of fruits. I mean, these are the things you know you should be eating, but perhaps you don't know why. And if you do incorporate some of those foods, it's not huge quantities, but some of those foods with every meal that you have, or most of the meals you have. And then remember, end the meal with a tooth protective food if possible. And if you don't know what to end it with, have some xylitol. That is the quickest, easiest way to deal with this, because a little bit of xylitol is going to help stimulate salivary flow. And then try really hard not to eat or drink for an hour or two afterwards. Nothing, not even water. Try and do your eating and drinking and then stop. And then during that time, all the good food that you just ate is going to circulate around, and it's usually within half an hour that the minerals will appear. You can actually do this test with pH testing paper. You will see that your salivary pH will stay high or become higher about a half an hour after a really healthy meal if your digestive processes are working well. Now, stress, medications, even being a woman with our hormonal fluctuations and so on can change. It makes it harder. And all I encourage you to do is keep at it. Do the best you can. Go through these periods. Being pregnant is so hard because your salivary pH is always acidic. Digestive health is challenging. But if you stick to these principles, I believe you will get through those periods of difficulty and enjoy improved oral health for life. Now, if you need extra help and you want to speed what I've talked about, this natural healing, I have a complete mouth care system which utilizes over-the-counter products that work in synergy with each other to speed the repair of your teeth and the repair of gums that have been damaged. So for people who are at high risk, those who are taking medications, those who have these hormonal changes, people under stress, or if you're trying to reverse a dental problem, I would highly recommend using my complete mouth care system along with these dietary suggestions and changes. Do it for 3 months. You can even test the bacteria in your mouth and see how they change within 3 months. 12 weeks might change your life.